Hello and welcome to our short tutorial video on the subject of selective drawing and the new 3D lighting module. I brought a nice image with me and adapted the modules to how I normally use them, the areas shown. Let's go to selective drawing, open the image there, and here under masks on the right we find the new 3D button. I'll activate that. Nothing happens yet initially because we haven't done anything yet, but we can now draw a depth map here and let the program know which area is the foreground of the image and which is the background. It's really easy to do with the paintbrush features. I use the border paintbrush. I'll set that to an opacity of 100% and switch the contour detection off. Slightly larger brush. And now I just paint along the front here and say this is the foreground of the image. I'll set that to the black and white display and make it a bit more intense because that's how the depth map is structured. The area where it's really bright is the foreground. The area where the depth mark is really dark is the background. Now I'll turn the opacity down a bit. I'll use the border brush and ensure that this opacity is not exceeded in the drawing, and now we have the middle ground of the image. That's relatively straight on this meadow. That's the front of the middle ground with 74% opacity. Now go to the middle, 50% opacity, and paint the rest of the meadow here. And then I tell the program where the back of the middle ground or the background of the image is. A slightly smaller brush, that's the trees here. If I paint up here a bit, that's not bad. Let's correct that a little now. Go over this once over the tree and would say that tends to be more in the background. Now, I take this depth map that I've just painted. This is how it looks at the moment. Not very precise, but absolutely good enough. I'll use the color blur 1 or 2 times. They get a very blurred depth map. Now let's go over that a second time, and we have blurred that relatively nicely. Then I'll take the eraser and use contour detection to clear out all the area that's pretty much at the back. So wherever we painted too much here, pass it once with the eraser, and we've now cut out the map as required. We've painted in the depth information for the picture. As you can see, the process is really very quick. Now we switch off the brush and the mask, and now we come to the actual editing. At the top is this area called ambient light, where I lower the intensity. I say that the basic lighting in the picture is lower, and down here I have the area for the light sources. I switch on the first light source, which is then positioned in the middle of the picture, and I can now move this light source around the picture. I'll put it up there. And I can use this depth slider to move the light source to the very front or to the very back. I click the slider and then use the cursor keys to move the light source from the front to the back through the picture. If I just hold down the cursor key, it moves from front to back in real time. Now we move the light source up here in the direction of the shadows, so it matches the main direction of the shadows. Move the light source a little further back, increase the radius. You can click and drag it like this, then change the basic color a little so it's heading for moonlight. Maybe still a little too bright, so we'll turn the intensity down a bit. And now we've given the image a bit of a moonlight vibe. Now we can click on another light source, activate it, and light up other spots in the picture, such as down here in the front area. I'll move the depth towards the front a bit, turn the radius down a bit, and set the light source color so you can see it clearly to a full red. If I want the light source to be closer to the meadow again, I can simply move that too. Now, maybe a third light source. Let's move it to the left here, make this light source deep blue so we can see it. And now try to illuminate just the bushes here. Of course I have to reduce the radius here. I can do that with the slider or the radius itself. I can also use a small radius but with a very intense light source and then move it close to the trees, so all the way back in terms of depth. Then I can light up the trees here. I could also light up this tree now, but as you can see the area behind it lights up too, so you have to be a bit careful there. And this lets me provide the whole picture, no matter how it's constructed, with new light based on my depth map. Maybe I'll turn the ambient light up a bit more so that it fits a little better with the overall lighting. And if you have landscape photographs like this one, then there's a depth map button in the top right here, which you can also use to have this depth map generated. I'll click on that. This activates our artificial intelligence and neural network, which makes me a depth map for landscapes in daylight. That's important because that's what these networks have been trained for. And this comes in 3 levels. These 3 buttons from contoured to very soft. I choose the middle setting, click it, and then depth map's generated. You can see the lighting's changed a bit because we changed the depth information. And if we view the generated depth map, it looks like this. The network has recognized that the front is here, it's light here. Then it slowly moves backwards here. These trees are all on around the same level roughly. This one's a little further in front, this one's a little further back. The sky's far away. Let's turn masking off again. So we get a very good depth map, but that only works for landscape shots or landscape-like shots in daylight. If you use the feature with an architectural image, you probably won't get the result you want. But you can correct that really quickly with the brush. Just a small tip, because the button's right next to it, that isn't part of the lighting module. There's a new masking function for the sky. We can see that button here. Lets you mask skies in landscape photographs with daylight automatically, which is the way that networks have been trained. I'll click balanced and you can see you could change the whole sky here in no time. But let's turn that off again. This video was about the 3D lighting module and you can really do a lot of great things with it. I hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time.